a WikiVidi documentaries production. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Enjoy. 2026 Winter Olympics. The 2026 Winter Olympics, officially known as the 25th Olympic Winter Games, is an international multi-sport event to be organized in a city designated by the International Olympic Committee. The host city will be selected at the 134th IOC Session in September 2019 in Milan, Italy. Bidding calendar. The IOC Executive Board met in Lausanne, Switzerland to discuss the 2026 bid process on the 9th of June 2017. For the 2026 candidature process, the IOC will take a more proactive role in assisting and supporting cities considering a candidature. The IOC will customize its approach to the needs of the cities in order for them to develop the best value proposition. These measures will lead to a simplified process for the cities, with reduced costs. The invitation phase has been extended to 1 year, starting the 13th of September 2017, and the candidature phase has been shortened to 1 year, starting from 2018 to 2019. The new approach was approved at the extraordinary IOC session on 12th of July 2017. These measures were enacted after no city had bid on the Games well into 2017. Criteria. A firm criterion for the Winter Olympics is the availability of alpine ski slopes of certain sizes, which narrows down potential locations significantly, and often means locations in less populated areas. The men's downhill requires at least 700 meters altitude difference along around 3 kilometers length. A certain spectator capacity is required and often this is 10,000, but varies by sport. Furthermore, certain VIP areas are required at every venue. Cities part of the dialogue stage. The following 4 cities are participating in the dialogue stage and therefore join the Pyeongchang 2018 Observer Program. Other cities can join the dialogue stage until the deadline to enter the candidature process on the 31st of March 2018. Previously interested in bidding. The following cities explored the possibility of bidding at some point, but decided not to bid or have some uncertainties according to media. On the 6th of April 2017, it was announced that Lillehammer was considering a bid for the Winter Olympics in 2026 or 2030. Lillehammer was host of the 1994 Winter Olympics and the 2016 Winter Youth Olympics. A feasibility report was published in March. It could share an Olympic bid with Norwegian cities like Oslo, Bergen, Stavanger, and Trondheim, according to Norwegian media. However, no further information was released about the bid as the Norwegian Olympic and Paralympic Committee and Confederation of Sports selected the southern Norwegian county of Telemark. On the 31st of October 2017, it was announced at a press conference at the top of Mount Gårdstad that the southern Norwegian county of Telemark, known as the cradle of modern skiing, wanted to host the 2026 Olympics, with a base in the twin UNESCO World Heritage towns Rjukan and Notodden in the north of Telemark, and further fairly spread venues. They also wished telemark skiing to be added to the Games. The Norwegian National Sports Federation turned this location down on the 25th of January 2018. Without suggesting any other Norwegian site, Almaty was reportedly considering a bid to host the 2026 Winter Games after narrowly losing to Beijing in its bid to host the 2022 Winter Olympics. However, Boazan Babek, mayor of Almaty, denied the rumors of Almaty bidding to host the 2026 Winter Olympic Games. On the 17th of February 2016, the Tiroler Zeitung wrote in an article that IOC President Thomas Bach asked the Alpine city for an application for the 2026 Winter Olympics. He said that an event such as this would not only be celebrated, but lived. If applying, the host of the 1964 Winter Olympics, the 1976 Winter Olympics and the 2012 Winter Youth Olympics would reuse many of the sites used in the past Games. In October 2016, the Austrian Olympic Committee agreed to carry out a feasibility study into whether they should launch a bid. On the 6th of December 2016, the IOC commissioned a working group including renowned companies to conduct a feasibility study with results published on the 22nd of June 2017. The study proposes to use facilities at venues across all of Tyrol: Innsbruck, Igls, Kutai, St. Anton am Arlberg, Hochfilzen, and Seefeld. The 2 ice hockey venues were to be determined, as was the possibility of using the existing speed skating rink in Innsbruck in Germany. 2026 marks the 50th anniversary of Innsbruck's 1976 Winter Olympics. Innsbruck could be the first city to host the Winter Olympics 3 times. A referendum vote in Innsbruck was set for the 15th of October 2017 to decide whether to proceed with the bid. In the referendum, the bid was defeated as 53% voted against it. This was the 3rd successive defeat of an Olympic bid by a vote after Krakow and Munich 2022, and Hamburg 2024, while Budapest and Rome 2024 withdrew to avoid a referendum. The president of the Italian National Olympic Committee, Giovanni Malago, proposed in June 2017 a bid for Milan to host the 2026 Winter Olympics. Malago considered Milan together with Valtellina suitable. Milan was planned to host ice sports, while Bormio, Santa Caterina di Valferva and Livigno are already today well-known destinations for snow sports, from alpine skiing to snowboarding, cross-country skiing to biathlon. However, there has currently been no further information on Milan's 2026 bid. Milan will also host the 134th IOC Session in 2019, during which the host city of the 2026 Winter Olympics will be awarded. Because of this, IOC regulations state that no bid from a country or city is allowed when the IOC session is in the same country or the same city. A public debate is promoted by a citizens' committee in the Italian region of Mont Blanc, in order to promote Aosta as the host of the Winter Olympics in 2026 or later. The idea was to build support among the citizens and promote the Games from the bottom up, to build a consensus supporting the effort. The Aosta Valley region's economy is mainly based on winter sports. Starting from 1970s, the main winter resorts hosted world events. Cormair hosted a round of the 1977 Alpine Skiing World Cup, Cervinia a round of the 1978 Alpine Skiing World Cup, Louisiana Tha-Isle a round of the 2016 Alpine Skiing World Cup, and Bobsleigh's 5th World Championships 1971, Cogna round of the 1984-85 FIS Cross Country World Cup, and a round of 2006-07 FIS Cross Country World Cup, and Phoenix hosted in the 1986 FIL World Luge Natural Track Championships. In 1991, the city made a bid for the 1998 Winter Olympics, but lost to Nagano, so a 2026 bid would be the city's second attempt. In 1993, Aosta hosted the first edition of the Winter European Youth Olympic Festival, and in 2010 it hosted the first edition of the Winter Military World Games. The Aosta bid was cancelled when was announced that the city of Milan will be the host city of the 134th IOC session to decide the host city. And IOC regulations state that no bid from a country is allowed when the IOC session is in the same country. Barcelona had waged a bid for the 2022 Winter Olympics, but, according to Mayor Xavier Trias, was not considered ready yet. Instead, one must concentrate its efforts and commitment to work to reach the Olympic target by 2026. On the 17th of June 2015, Barcelona announced it will not be bidding to host the 2026 Olympic Winter Games. Mayor Ada Colau, who won the municipal elections on the 24th of May, decided that this is not a priority project for the city. On the 24th of July, the City Council accorded to create a specific commission about the social and economic impact of the bid. On the 16th of March 2017, Barcelona's City Hall government has taken itself out of the running to host the 2026 Winter Olympics Games. According to Barcelona's Deputy Mayor, Jordi Colboni, the decision responded to the current social and economic circumstances not only in Barcelona, but in the whole country. Of the note, it would have been the second city to host both the Summer and the Winter Olympics after Beijing. The mayor of Altenburg, Thomas Kirstin, brought Dresden up for discussion in November 2013, after the Bavarians rejected a Munich bid for the 2022 Winter Olympics. But the German Olympic Sports Confederation decided not to consider a bid, since the lack of alpine skiing resorts would have made it necessary to use Czech venues. A pre-feasibility report was published in May 2015 stating that a joint Winter Olympics Games with Australia would be feasible for 2026. Bruce McGeechan, in a news release on the 26th of June 2015, said that the New Zealand Olympic Committee had considered the report, but had decided not to ask the New Zealand government to do a full feasibility study of hosting the 2026 Olympic Winter Games. Therefore, the Olympic Winter Games NZ 2026 project was shelved. Quebec City initially expressed interest in bidding. In September 2011, Quebec City Mayor Régis Lébume ruled out bidding for 2022. However, the city may bid for another Winter Games in the future. Then IOC President Jacques Rogge stated that he believes that the 2026 Winter Olympics would be a realistic option for the city to organize the Games. Quebec has a problem finding a mountain for the downhill event, as the planned location of Le Massif was not approved. In September 2015, during an interview on Radio-Canada, Lébume ruled out any possibility of Quebec making a bid for 2026. Lébume also attempted, but failed, to create a joint bid with Calgary, Canada, Vancouver, Canada, or Lake Placid, United States. Calgary's Mayor Naheed Nenshi had confirmed his city, the 1988 host, were pondering a bid, but the talks on a joint effort appear to have collapsed. United States. On the 9th of February 2018, the United States Olympic Committee ruled out a bid for the 2026 Winter Olympics and will instead consider bids for the 2030 Winter Olympics. Boston was actively considering a bid for the 2026 Winter Games. This campaign was dropped when Boston was named the candidate city from the United States by the USOC for the 2024 Summer Games. Boston's campaign for the 2024 Summer Olympics was later dropped, and Los Angeles was chosen as the USOC bid city. The Big Sky Committee for the Winter Games was seeking to bring the Olympics to the Bozeman and Big Sky areas of southwest Montana, immediately north of Yellowstone National Park. The committee, however, has not sought the bid since 2014. Lake Placid, the host of the 1932 Winter Olympics and the 1980 Winter Olympics, considered a bid for the 2026 Winter Olympics with Albany, but had to drop when the U.S. pulled out all bids for the 2026 Olympic Games. This opens up the possibility of another bid for Lake Placid, after a failed bid for the 2018 Winter Olympics, and the rumored bid for the 2026 Olympics that never was put into play. Salt Lake City, the host of the 2002 Winter Olympics, has been considering launching a bid to host the Olympics for a second time. It is not clear whether or not Salt Lake City would submit a bid for the 2026 or 2030 Olympics, but it may be dependent on which other cities submit bids. One obstacle for a bid from Salt Lake City is the fact that Los Angeles will be hosting the 2028 Summer Olympics. The U.S. last hosted back-to-back editions of the Olympics in 1980, Lake Placid Winter Olympics in 1984, Los Angeles Summer Olympics. LA 2028 President Casey Wasserman stated that an attempt for the United States to host the 2026 Winter Olympic and Paralympic Games would require a lot of conversation with the Californian city before a bid is formally launched. The USOC is expected to discuss possible bids for the 2026 Winter Olympic and Paralympic Games at its board meeting in late October. On the 16th of October 2017, leaders of Salt Lake City and Utah announced the formation of an official Olympic Exploratory Committee. According to sources, Salt Lake City appears to be more focused on 2030, and the USOC is monitoring the process to see if the IOC will award both the 2026 and 2030 Winter Games. At the 134th IOC Session in Milan, Italy in September 2019, mirroring the dual allocation of the 2024 and 2028 Summer Games to Paris and Los Angeles. Brought to you by WikiVidi Documentaries. Would you like to know more?